Hey guys, Liam C Photography here, and today we have a raw file, which I also grabbed this one from Jared Poland's website. I'll post a link in the description. And today, as you can see, we're going to be doing a quick basic edit towards a landscape. So here's our starting image. It's a little overexposed. It's a great photograph, but it doesn't have the boom factor. It's something that can clearly be usable and saved, but you wouldn't want to sell this to somebody. You wouldn't want to make a print out of this. It's very it's very well laid out, but the picture itself overall is not usable. So we're going to take this raw file, and here's my final product. And I want to show you how I got here. So let's go back to the beginning. And first things first, we're going to get rid of our gradient here. We're going to go to the basic panel. Now, the white balance in this photograph is fairly good. I'm not going to touch it right now. My final product, I'll tweak it at the end, because if I go back to my final product here, maybe it's a little too orange here, but we can deal with that later. So let's go back to the start, and the white balance, we're just going to leave the same. The exposure in this photograph, I think, overall is fine. We just have some blown out highlights. So we take our highlights, and I brought mine to around -70, and that just brings in some detail into the mountains. Next thing, I increase the blacks, because here in the tree, we have this beautiful tree here, but some of the detail is kind of too hidden away, and it kind of pops too much. It's a little distracting, so we're just going to increase the blacks just a little bit. It's around like 15, 17, that's fine. Yeah, I think it's going to blend well. Now, I do like adding clarity. It's kind of the same thing as contrast, but a little different. Oh, and I did forget to add contrast, my bad. Because the tree stands too far out of the background, I'm just going to lower the contrast a bit. And I usually add contrast, but for this photograph, I'm just going to lower it just a bit. And we are going to add some clarity, which is kind of giving it more contrast, more of a gritty feel. We're going to look at it. We're going to leave it like that. Let's go back to our start. So we went from there to here, just in the basic panel, and that's way more usable. Now, I did add some vibrance to this. I didn't add saturation because saturation has the orange in it, and say for this I had 38 vibrance. So let's just say I put 38 saturation. If you look here on the bottom left, you can see the sand and rocks have an orange hue to it, and I'm not really a big fan of that. So let's return this by double clicking that to 0. Let's bring our vibrance to 38. Now let's compare these. So here's the vibrance, and now we're going to make it a saturation at the same levels. Now if you're focusing on the bottom left, you can see that the rocks down here have a more reddish hue to it with the saturation, but I prefer it to have a more whiter tone. It's less distracting. And of course, this you did notice some difference in the sky, but that's not what we're focused on here with the vibrance. Now for the tone curve, I did want to add some blue into the shadows, so let's go back to the start. So this is what you normally have, and I took the point curve, and I clicked it, and I went to our channel, and I went to the blue channel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip it just a little bit to the right. Nothing too dramatic. And what that does is that takes away a bit of blue from our shadows. It pretty much clips it right out. Let's go down here, and let's just compare that. It's maybe hard to tell on YouTube, but if we look down here, there is a bit of more of a blue tone, and bringing and clipping it just a little bit, takes away that tone just a wee bit. Maybe you want to do this a bit more, not too dramatic. Oops, definitely not that. Let's try that. Okay, that's fine. It's just a little slight detail, but I think it helps overall in the photograph. And next, I think that these rocks over here are too bright, and it's kind of distracting. I know this tree is the main focus point of this photograph, but you have these beautiful mountains here, and my eyes were just drawn, not even to the tree, just to these bright rocks. It's so overpowering. So I went over to luminance in our highlight, saturation, luminance bar here, and I clicked this little circle, and I went over to the rocks. Any point will do, somewhere around here. I clicked and I dragged just down a bit. Now if you look to the right, you can see those numbers are sliding down. Let's go keep it a little darker. Maybe a little darker than that. Let's try that. Now you notice that not only did my orange slider go down, but my yellow slider. So that pretty much means where I clicked, it had a mixture of yellow and orange hues to it. It wasn't just one color, it was a mixture of some colors. Now if we compare that before, so we have the rocks that are kind of blown out. Maybe we can just zoom in here, get some more detail. Not that much detail. Okay, let's try that. So we see how these rocks are kind of blown out. These whites are very bright in some of these areas. So we're going to use this just to tone it down a bit and make it more smooth and consistent throughout the image. Now let's go back to full screen. And now that that's done, what we have next is just your detail. And normally I do luminance reduction to remove some grain, but for landscapes you usually have longer shutters, and because this ISO was at just 220, I don't even bother. Even though this is an older camera, I'm pretty sure it was a D90, a Nikon D90. It's still fine. Like, that's just a really low number. I'm not even going to worry about that. So if we want, we can scroll down here. Now I usually always do this, profile corrections. This has to do with like the lensing, the lens you're using, and depending on like focal lengths. Because this is a 42, it is fairly considered a wide lens. You're going to get some like a fishbowl effect, and for landscapes it doesn't matter usually. Like, it's really hard to tell unless you're using a fisheye, that fishbowl bubble effect. But if you're shooting portraits, depending how wide your lens is, the lower the millimeter, the lower the focal length, their face will begin to distort. It'll be very noticeable. It's kind of just out of habit. I usually just do this. Honestly, if you printed out either one of these photographs, no one's going to know. You may have a preference. It just doesn't really matter to me, and I am just going to do this just because on the top left here, I find this piece of cloud right above the tree just kind of distracting, and we do that, it just clips it a little bit. So I'm just going to do that just for that reason, which may be right, may be wrong, but oh well. Now I can just tell, you may not be able to tell on YouTube, but I can just tell by looking at this photograph that these rocks over here have some fringing. Now if we do zoom in here like we did before, you may have noticed, you might have yelled at me for it, but if we zoom in here, you can see around the rocks there's a green hue to it. Right here you can see right in these plants there's greenish blue outlines. I see a lot there. Down here, let's go to the tree. I didn't check the tree earlier. Tree's not so bad. I'm seeing some pink up here. That's doing alright. Let's check down here. That's alright. There's some green there. That one's not too noticeable. But what it pretty much is, due to your camera sensor, I'm not really sure how it happens. It has to do with just the sensor and its quality, and worse sensors will get this more often. Don't quote me on that, but that's just how I see it. And due to like certain contrasty colors or bright colors, you'll get weird hues outlining things. and we don't want that. So this is a really neat tool. And we just click this checkbox here, and you'll notice that most of it goes away. Right down here, if you look here, there's a little bit of blue outline there. Click that, most of that's gone. Where was some? Let's bring it back. You can see some green here, green here, green here, right there. And most of that's gone. Excuse me. Now, of course, we went to the color section. Now we can adjust it. So maybe there was a crap ton of green there, and we brought it up a bit. But the problem with that is it's going to start clipping your trees, and if we over-exaggerate it, your trees are going to start losing detail in some of the leaves and such, and we don't want that. So we're just going to leave that at 0. Oh, my bad. I have to increase the hue. That's right. There we go. There's a exaggerated example. So we increase the hue to add more of a green. So say if there was thick green lines there, and just using this checkbox didn't get rid of it all, and there's no pink hues, we just want to focus on green hues, we can adjust that. Or maybe the hues are more bluish turquoise, we can do that. Of course, we're going to get some clipping. The sky, it's really noticeable in the tree, it's just deleting all the green, so we don't want that at all. So if we just double click this, little arrows, they'll go back to normal, and I think that's fine. Now, if this photo was in black and white, I would add maybe a stronger vignetting, but because it's just color and it is a landscape, and we do have one of our main focus points on the far left, I was considering not using some vignetting, but I'm just going to add a little bit to this one, just very little. So let's increase it so I can see what the heck I'm doing. We're going to remove the midpoint, bring it back, because we don't want that tree to be clipped so much. We're going to feather it a bit. Roundness, just a wee bit. Now let's bring the amount back a lot. How's that? Maybe that's a bit too strong. Oops. There we go. Just a subtle detail. You don't lose any quality. It's just drawing your eyes more into the center of the photograph, where we have this tree and these beautiful mountains, and it's taking away some of that brightness of these rocks and the brightness just on the outside of the photograph, leading your eyes more into the middle, right where we want people to look at. Now that that's all done, we're going to do just one other effect that I love doing in landscape photographs. Is this beautiful tool, the graduated filter. I'm pretty sure this is new. I don't think it had it in Lightroom 4. Maybe it did. Maybe it wasn't that good. Maybe I just didn't use it. But hopefully you have this tool. This is a beautiful tool. So we're going to click that, and we're going to drag a gradient over across our sky, and I'm just going to show you where it is by making it really blown out. Kind of looks like a sun rays coming down. That's what we want, because I made it stop around the mountain, because that's like one part of the photograph is past this ridge line because it's really far in the distance, and another part's close up before the ridge line. And I did change a bit of things here, so let's start with, I made it a little more contrasty around there. I also removed some of the highlights to bring back details in the mountain. Let's try that. Not too much, but it helps. I also lowered the saturation to make it more white and make the blue not so powerful. Yeah, let's just try there. Maybe a bit more. I'll just leave it at 13. Clarity I did increase to make it more rough and rugged, and add just a bit of a contrast effect. Let's just lower that just a wee bit. And sharpening, I just put it around 50 just to get more ruggedness in the mountains. And now if we go to our graduated filter and we remove all of what we just did, we went from there just to there, just a slight difference, barely noticeable, but I feel like it adds to the overall photograph. Oops, let's go down one. Let's compare that. There we had, it was kind of more noticeable here. It was just a kind of a gray washed out area. And I wanted to bring back some of that detail and of course make these pop out just a little bit more. Now these things aren't permanent. You can always change them. You can go down here and go to show edit pins. Let's just say we always want to show them. So if you ever lose this, you click this pin and now you can change this any way you want. Do whatever you want to it. So maybe you save this photograph and you load it up the next day and you're like what the hell? I didn't really like that. Why would I do that? And you can just go back and edit it freely, which is great. I'm just gonna move my grid just a bit. I noticed I was coming into the trees a lot there. Just make sure it's just at the mounds. Okay, that's a bit better. And that's pretty much it. So we went from this photograph and we restored it, brought it here. I think that's a huge improvement. It made a beautiful photograph that wouldn't have been usable for prints, and we made it printable. So I hope you learned something. If you have any quick questions, just please comment and subscribe if you want some more. Thank you and have a good day.